Aave just had a security issue. Millions of dollars were unfairly liquidated. I'm going to explain all of that in a second. The cause of the problem seems to be a service provider that may have mishandled things. We're going to talk about that, about a bunch of other topics too, about stablecoins, Goldman Sachs holding a lot of XRP, Elon Musk and the X-Money app that should be coming really soon, CBDCs, and plenty more. Hello everyone and welcome to CryptoRed, the crypto news channel. Let's talk a little bit about the price. BTC is around $70,000, Ether around $2,000, XRP $1.3. Let's get straight into the news and straight into the hot topic of the day. We're talking about Aave. Aave, the DeFi giant, just had an issue, a configuration issue that caused losses for Aave users. Let me explain exactly what happened. We're talking about $26 million in unfair liquidations for people who were using staked Ether markets, especially wstETH. So what happened? There was a problem with the oracle used by Aave to get the price of the staked ETH, which is the price of staked ETH relative to ETH. And the price was wrong. That incorrect price triggered liquidation with $26 million worth of wstETH collateral being liquidated. Now, how much did user actually lose on a net basis? Not really $26 million, because that collateral had been deposited on Aave in order to borrow something else afterward, for example, Ether, and the people doing this kind of strategy still kept the Ether they had borrowed or the other crypto they had borrowed, but they lost the collateral that got sold. They lost that collateral while the debt was repaid. So in the end, how much did they lose? From what I've seen, they probably lost around 5% of that amount. We're talking about roughly $1 million. 1 million. I so estimate around 500 Ether. So yeah, that's about $1 million lost. The good news is that users may be reimbursed for those losses. And we're talking about small number of users. We're talking about 34 addresses, maybe not even 34 actual users because one person may have several addresses. But in any case, at most there were 34 users affected. So it doesn't look like something that hit a huge number of people, but it still mainly impacted those who were doing leverage looping strategies and borrowing heavily against their position. DeFi is great, it really is, but you have to be careful about the risk you take every single time. Aave, of course, is a protocol that isn't supposed to be especially risky, but if you go in Aave and use a lot of leverage and you borrow a lot, then yes, this kinds of thing can lead to liquidations. But what we saw here was really a worst case scenario that fortunately only affected a small number of people. So what caused the issue? In a way, it was caused by Chaos Labs. Chaos Labs is the company in charge of the risk management side of things for Aave. And they were in charge of this oracle. This oracle was developed by Chaos Labs, and its purpose was to make sure that the price of the crypto in question couldn't deviate too much from the real token price. It's a protection mechanism that prevents the oracle price from increasing by more than a few percent over a certain period of time. And that's actually what created the problem here, because they misconfigured things. The price that ended up being used was a price for more than a year ago, but Ether has gone up since then. The ratio between wstETH and ETH has gone up. So basically, the oracle failed to adapt and take the latest price into account. It kept the price that should have been used, and in the end that triggered liquidations because the wrong price was used. So yes, this is basically Chaos Labs' fault. And this is all happening in the middle of a broader controversy around Aave, with some of Aave service providers leaving the project. I'm thinking in particular of BGD Labs and also the Aave-chan initiative. In this specific case, though, it's not directly related to those entities leaving the project. Chaos Labs was already there before, and they were the ones maintaining this part. So the issue happened because of them, and I believe only them. But once again, we're seeing the kinds of risks that can exist on Aave when you have service providers or teams that are sometimes less competent. There can be security issues. there can be all kinds of problems. And for me, the fact that Aave had BGD Labs was a big plus because that was an extremely competent team. Unfortunately, they're going to leave Aave. The fact that they have the Aave initiative involved is also reassuring because these are people who have already proven themselves when it comes to governance and how to implement this kind of things. Now with Aave v4, rather the new version of Aave, the new version of Aave that's coming, this is going to be brand new code with a new team. No BGD Labs, no Aave Chain initiative. Aave Labs is the one that developed all of this v4 and will probably be maintaining a big part of it as well. So this is new, and honestly, I won't have a huge amount of confidence in Aave v4 right when it launches. Aave v3, I have no issue with this version. That's the current version. But with v4, you'll need to be careful. You'll need to give it some time. Let things play out a bit. See hundreds of millions, then billions get deposited. Make sure everything works properly. And only then maybe start depositing into that kind of protocol. So yeah, let's talk about something positive for Aave. Look at this. Aave's TVL on the Mantle blockchain has increased a lot. They attracted more than $1 billion in a month. That shows that Aave's brand is still strong, still relevant, and still attracting people. This was also part of a deal between Mantle and Aave to promote this DeFi app on Mantle, which Mantle, if I remember correctly, is a blockchain associated with Bybit. So yeah, it's working pretty well. Aave doesn't have a short-term problem, but it's still something to watch over the long term. As I said, more the issue of lack of confidence in this new version and in the team that's gonna handle it. Then let's talk about a really big bank in Europe, Société Générale, the big French bank which launched the EURCV, which is a stablecoin on Ethereum and Solana a few months ago now. Well, they just launched this stablecoin on Stellar, on the blockchain Stellar. I believe a lot of people know this blockchain. It's been around since more than 10 years. Yeah, that's a good thing because their stablecoin, the EURCV got off a pretty bad start. At first, it was a whitelist only stablecoin. You couldn't really move it around, and there were almost nothing you could do with it. But since then, they launched it on Ethereum and Solana. They removed all those limitations, and today, the stablecoin is actually fairly integrated into DeFi, into protocols like Morpho. You can generate yield on this Euro stablecoin, and it's working pretty well. So yeah, I'm kind of happy to see banks really moving onto public blockchain and actually using DeFi protocols for liquidity. It's available on Uniswap, for instance. If you want to buy or sell, it's available on Morpho as well for lending and borrowing. So yeah, what they're doing is pretty smart, and I hope it keeps expanding. And while we're on the subject of stablecoins, in the United States, there's a proposal to completely ban CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, and leave room only for stablecoins. You should know that right now there is already a ban in place until 2030 on CBDCs, and now there's a proposal or an amendment that should be coming really soon, led by Ted Cruz, who is very well known, and the goal is to move from a temporary ban on CBDC development by the Fed to a total ban with no end date. That's interesting because I think it shows that politicians in the US really do not want CBDCs. The official reason is mainly privacy, not giving the government the right to see all kinds of transactions and also not giving it control over people's transactions in the United States. I think that's a good thing. It really comes down to privacy and freedom. And I think that's positive. I wish Europe had done the same thing, but that's absolutely not the direction Europe is taking. They're still developing their digital euro. Next, let's talk about XRP. There's Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs appears to be the largest declared holder of XRP ETFs in the US. Not all ETF holders are disclosed. There are limits and reporting rules. When you're an institution, you have a legal obligation and you have to file disclosure. But if you're just an individual, you do not need to make that kind of declaration. From what I understand, companies holding position above a certain threshold do have to report them, or specific type of companies. And Goldman Sachs was showing up in the first place among the declared holders of XRP-related products with $153 million, which is approximately 80 million XRP tokens. So yeah, it's then you see also some other pretty well-known firms like Citadel, but it's it's important to understand that it's not really Goldman Sachs itself that bought those tokens. It's Goldman Sachs, sure, but it's Goldman Sachs clients who wanted exposure to XRP ETFs, and they made those purchases through Goldman Sachs. Still, it's going to be interesting to see this kind of holder owning XRP through ETFs. Personally, I think this is only going to grow. For me, there's been a really strong success story with XRP ETFs in the United States. Look, let's check this out here. I'm looking at XRP ETFs in the US, and there are quite a few of them. Altogether, the total is $1 billion. There's $1 billion in XRP ETFs in the United States. And if you compare that with another very well-known crypto, Solana. I expected Solana to be ahead of XRP when it comes to ETFs, but that's not the case at all. Solana in the US is only at around $339 million. So that's basically 3 times less than XRP. So XRP ETFs are clearly done very well in the United States. Of course, the success is still smaller than, for example, Ethereum, which has $11 billion. So about 11 times more, almost 12 times more. But those products have been around longer, and in a way that's also normal. And Bitcoin, we don't even need to talk about it. Bitcoin is at $90 billion, so 90 times more. But still, having $1 billion in XRP ETFs exposure is pretty significant. You can clearly see that the gap is still pretty large with the others, but looking back, I have to say that BlackRock made the right choice in a way with the ETFs they decided to launch. They basically said BTC and Ethereum, those are the ones we're going to launch, and the others just aren't important enough for us. There isn't enough demand from our clients yet, so we're not going to launch ETFs on those products, on altcoins. And it's true that in a way, the biggest XRP ETFs at the end of the day only has about $267 million. It's actually distributed quite evenly. That's not something you necessarily see with Bitcoin and Ethereum, when there's a very strong concentration in BlackRock's ETFs. Look at BlackRock's Ethereum ETFs, it has 60% market share, $6 billion, and for BTC, it's even more extreme. BlackRock Bitcoin's ETF has $54 billion. So, you know, out of the 90 billion, that's also roughly 60%. So, yeah, unlike that, it's not the case at all with XRP ETFs. So overall, the point is that XRP is doing pretty well in the ETF space in the United States, even without BlackRock. Next, let's talk about X-Money. X-Money is X payment app, basically the financial app that X, Elon Musk's social network has rebranded from Twitter. Well, X-Money is supposed to launch very soon. People are talking about April for the launch of X-Money. Previously, people were talking about crypto and that kind of things being part of X-Money, but right now that's not what's being discussed at all. At the moment, it's just about card payments and things like that. They're also talking about generating yield, but more in the traditional finance sense, not DeFi. So for now, there's still no Dogecoin integration, even though that's what a lot of people are waiting for. Everyone expected there to be Dogecoin in X-Money, considering how much Elon Musk has pushed Dogecoin in the past. I think that will probably come later. You should know that X, the social network under Musk, has a very small number of employees. So they're not developing a massive number of things either. The algorithm side is more delegated to XAI, so the Elon Musk AI company, while the actual social network and payment side is handled more internally. And they really don't have many people. I've seen some pretty crazy numbers. I've seen people mention something like 30 employees. So I was pretty shocked when I saw this number because Musk really did fire the overwhelming majority of the staff, and in the end, the social network still works more or less normally. There hasn't been any major change, and we're seeing this more and more now. These layoffs in big companies, either because there were too many people who weren't really useful, or as Jack Dorsey, the former head of X, by the way, says, because of AI, or thanks to AI, depending on how you see it. Companies are laying off a certain number of people because you can do more things with AI with less people. So yeah, that's a trend we're seeing more and more. That's what I wanted to tell you today about the latest crypto news. I hope you enjoyed the content. Don't hesitate to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow for more. Bye-bye.